Fuck all you hoes. Get a grip, motherfucker. Yeah. This album is dedicated to all the teachers that told me I never amount to nothing. To all the people that lived above the buildings that I was hustling from that called the police on me when I was just trying to make some money to feed my daughter. And all the niggas in the struggle, you know what I'm saying? It's all good, baby. It was all a dream. I used to read Word Up magazine, Salt and Pepper and Heavy D up in the limousine, hanging pictures on my wall. Every Saturday, rap attack, Mr. Magic Molly Mall. I let my tape rock till my tape pop. Smoking weed and bamboo, sipping on private stock. Way back when I had the red and black lumberjack with the hat to match. Remember rapping Duke? The hard, you never thought that hip-hop would take it this far. Now I'm in the limelight cause I rhyme tight. Time to get paid, blow up like the world's trade. Born sinner, the opposite of a winner. Remember when I used to eat sardines for dinner? Peace to Ron G, Brucey B, Kid Capri, Funk Master Flex, Love Bug, Star Ski. I'm blowing up like you thought I would. Call a crib, same number, same hood. It's all good. And if you don't know, now you know, nigga.
You know very well who you are. Don't let them hold you down. Reach for the stars. You have to move when I'm sending cause you're the only one. I'll give you some.
Yo. Welcome back to the podcast. Today I got Lane on. I'm vacationing in Kansas. We've been recording earlier tonight, but we forgot to talk about one really important thing, and it was the main reason I wanted to talk to Lane is, this event that happened in South Korea was massive. It was a disaster all the way around. Terrible. I feel insanely bad for anybody involved, and I just wanted to talk to Lane about it because he's lived in Seoul for about 5 years or 4, and I visited him there, and I don't know if I went down that alley or if you and I went over in that area. I can't quite remember, but pretty devastating what happened over Halloween weekend. And Lane, I just wanted you to break it down for anybody listening, what you know about the area and the culture and possibly what exactly happened.
Yeah, so first of all, you've been there. We went there together when you were there. So you've walked on that street before. So there's this neighborhood in Seoul called Itaewon. And I guess the best way to, if you're going to compare it to people watching maybe in Wichita, Old Town, or if you're in Manhattan, Aggieville, Newport Beach, the Peninsula, it's like the nightlife spot for everybody. And Itaewon's probably the most popular spot in Korea for foreigners too, for whatever reason. There's a lot of Western style bars there, but it's by no means just Westerner. I mean, probably 8 out of 10 people there are Korean. So it's not like it's just foreigners going there. There's a lot of more Koreans that go there now anyway. But so the last 2 or 3 Halloweens, basically everything in Korea has been shut down or extremely limited as far as the amount of people that could go there because of COVID. And this year, everything was basically opened back up. So everybody and their dogs ended up going to Itaewon. And I was watching the videos from earlier in the night from all my friends taking IG stories. And the people were saying, yo, it's crazy out here. It's unsafe. Don't come to Itaewon. And I was seeing the videos, man, it was insane. So I think there was something like 100,000 people in one neighborhood. And this neighborhood's probably the size of, I guess Old Town in Wichita is the best comparison I can think of, but with like super narrow streets everywhere. There's one main street that goes, I'm trying to think of the direction that it runs. I don't really know. I think it runs east to west, but it's like the big main street. And it's like like a 6-lane road or a 4-lane road. And then to the north side of that is kind of where all the bars are. And there's this big street here, and then kind of like a main back street that's back here. That's a little smaller. That's like for foot traffic where all the main bars are. And then connecting this big main street and this kind of side street are a bunch of alleyways running this way. So I guess essentially what happened is traffic was flowing in the alleyway, traffic was flowing like this and it started getting more congested. So people were trying to make their way through. And there's this good simulation on the internet that shows like red dots and blue dots moving by each other. And pretty soon red dots are coming here, blue dots are coming here, and everyone's trying to force themselves the opposite direction in an alleyway that's maybe, God, I don't know, 12 feet across. I don't know if that might be a little short, but it is not. It's a very, very narrow alleyway. Can
Even
you see?
20? Yeah, I can see you.
Because I can't see you anymore, but I just want to make sure.
Okay.
But
Fucking Skype.
essentially what happened is a bunch of people, I mean, you can look up the videos if you are prepared to see some pretty intense stuff. Just search Itaewon on Twitter and you'll see a million videos that people were taking there. And people were just trying to force themselves into two different directions. And pretty soon people are starting to get pushed against the walls, and then all of a sudden nobody can move. And it's really, really hard, I think. And people are like, how did that happen? There's a lot of conspiracies in America. How did that happen? How did that happen? Well, it's very hard to imagine something like that happen in America because we just don't have the infrastructure that's built like that for something like that to really happen. And we don't have the culture that's so comfortable with being right up next to somebody for it not to seem weird. So in America, whenever I guess this is the most apt comparison, there's like a school shooting or something, people in other countries might think, I don't understand how that could happen. It's kind of the same thing. What happened in Korea, like if you're on the subway or if you're on a street, you're just so used to bumping into people, it's not really anything new. So, and again, I don't have the evidence to this, just the first thing that comes to my mind is this wouldn't have seemed like a huge deal until it was kind of too late to do anything about it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Does that add up?
Yeah. So you're saying an insane amount of people showed up to this small area to party,
Yes. And
which is explain the area. It's like a Hollywood or
no, it's
in Gangnam, right?
no, it's in Itaewon.
Okay.
Gangnam this wouldn't happen if only for the Gangnam was built much later, and so the streets are much bigger. Everything there is much wider. There's much more space.
What was the attraction about this area?
What's that?
What was the attraction about this area?
That's where all the bars are. That's like where the best Western bars are. So
Okay.
if you go, like obviously if you're going to celebrate Halloween, you're going to want to go to the place Halloween's from. It's a very Western holiday. It's where you go.
Did we play darts there?
Yeah, we played darts. Yeah, we played darts there.
Okay, I know the place then.
Remember, we met a couple people there. I think one of the girls was from New Zealand. In that bar. You remember that?
Is it close to Thursday night?
That's where that is. Yeah, Thursday party.
Okay.
That's right.
Okay, I know exactly where it is now.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so you remember the little alleyways that led to the main street, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so
That
that's
was it.
those. And essentially people just got so packed together they couldn't breathe and they started going into cardiac arrest and just died. So it's really weird if you look at it on the TV or on like Twitter or something, because there's no blood, there's nothing crazy. It just looks like people just died all of a sudden. And essentially that's what happened. And I don't know if alcohol had anything to do with it. I don't think so. I haven't heard anything about that. It just seemed like it was a crowd crush. Like just people couldn't.
It sounds like the way they died was organ failure. Just their organs couldn't function, lungs couldn't expand.
Yes.
And then the process of organ failure started. It's the worst way to die, in my opinion, being crushed to death like that. And I can't imagine like breathing in, breathing out, and then not having the capacity to breathe back in.
Right.
Just insane what happened. And
obviously
it's
this
a shame.
is a major failure on the city officials' part. They should have anticipated this was going to happen. They should have had crowd control measures in place. This is nobody's fault there that it happened. This was just young people wanting to go out and celebrate a holiday and have a good time.
Well, most of the victims were teenagers and 20-year-olds.
I'd say, yeah, probably. Most of the people are probably in their 20s if I had to guess, but they didn't do anything wrong. They just they were in a position, and all of a sudden it was too late to notice what was going on. Because if you look at videos from Tokyo from the same night, it was set up perfectly for crowds to move in opposite directions from each other. There was tons of police there. They anticipated problems and they stopped them before they happened. Somebody fucked up bad. And knowing Korea's kind of culture, I don't think anybody's probably going to pay for it. Just because it just doesn't seem like there's a lot of accountability when it comes to stuff like this. But it's no family or no friend should think that that the people that died were at fault. They weren't. They got caught in a bad situation because the people that were supposed to be in charge of planning this fucked up. So it's devastating. And it's like, I sat around the next morning and I called my friend who lives in New York and my friend that lives in Oakland, and all three of us were in Korea together. And we just couldn't, we'd all been there 100 times together. We drank there, we, talked to girls there, we done all the good stuff. And then all of a sudden it's this like crazy horror scene, and we just can't, it was hard for us to even imagine. And the feeling in my head is like, well, if I was there, I could have done something about it, but I don't know. Like,
or you'd be squished to death.
Yes, I know. But the first thought that comes to your mind is like, oh, because that's like my second home, basically.
Yeah.
Like Avalon and then there. Not Dallas. I've been in Dallas for a year and I don't have an attachment to it. So I was like, this is just as effective to me as if it would have happened in Haviland.
Yeah.
So the only thing going through my head, I'm like, oh, if I was there, I could have done something to help. I mean, I couldn't have, but you can't help having those thoughts, It just, I don't know. It just sucks, man. Because that's so many people. So many people.
151. Is that the total count?
Yeah. And
who knows?
From my friends' Instagram, they're like, yo, what's going on? And you see bodies on the street. And I'm like, man, this can't be real. It doesn't seem like a real thing, but it is, man. I don't know.
Well, dude, unbelievable. My sister sent me the news of it, and I looked into it a little bit. My wife actually watched the videos, and she said, and not to get graphic, but I'm going to get graphic. I'm sure you may have seen it. Like, it was so bad when the paramedics were pulling out the people at the end of the hill.
Yeah.
That there were people at the bottom, their face was at the ground, then the head of the next person, and it was like heads stacked up.
Yeah.
So people just squished in between that alley as the paramedics were trying to separate the bodies. And it's like, I did Fire One, and they made us watch videos of, exits and how exits can go wrong. And that's the only thing I can compare it to. Was there was a fire in a building, and I think it was a terrible fire. It was in Long Island, and unfortunately, you can actually look up the video on YouTube. But basically, a fire starts and nobody leaves because there was foam on the ceiling, and this guitar player strummed, and then all of a sudden, they had fireworks shoot up to the ceiling, and dude, the thing caught blaze within like 30 seconds, and people ran to one exit, and they all got jammed in that same way. I constantly look for exits everywhere I go now. Anytime I'm around a big crowd, it's something every one of us need to be aware of, and in general, keep your cool. But at the same time, what a terrible situation.
I mean, yeah, it's so hard to understand, but I guess the way that you can not rationalize it, but kind of conceptualize it is like, everyone, you've been on the 405. When you're stuck in traffic, you're like, this doesn't make any sense, because if every car is moving the same speed, then nobody's going to be stopped, right?
Yeah.
But that doesn't happen. It's the same thing in a situation like this. It's where, yes, if everybody's just walking extremely calmly at the same speed, there'll be no problems. But all it takes is for one person to kind of be pushed to the side, or one person to slip and fall. It's like if there's one car that has a fender bender, pretty soon you're backed up in traffic for 30 minutes. It's the same thing. It just takes one tiny little error when there's that much volatility. And it's nobody's fault. Again, it's no individual person's fault. It's the people that built the roads too fucking narrow, and it's the people that didn't anticipate the people coming there. And I
slow down and look, yeah.
From what I've heard, there was people that had requested the police, more of a police presence there for crowd control, and the police ignored it. So again, that doesn't surprise me, because the police in Korea are kind of shit. They don't do anything. They never have, because it's such a peaceful, easy. I can't imagine an easier place to be a police officer. They don't do jack shit because nothing ever happens there, which is great.
It's a testimony to Korea. Like,
it is.
Dude, great
How
place.
Society is, but the cops are fucking idiots. Like, if you need them to actually do something, they can't do anything. And there's also a pretty good chance that they're paid off by somebody not to do anything. So I don't know. It's just sad that it was just a lack of oversight. Just one person in a position of power saying, hey, we need to probably put up barriers or put up police to help with exit and could have been fixed. But they didn't do it because they were lazy. And now there's 51 people in their 20s that are dead. So I have no sympathy for not the people, the first responders that were out there trying to save people's lives, they're heroes. But the city officials that are like, nah, you just go, fuck it. Those people should all be in prison, in my opinion.
Is that what they're saying?
I don't know what they're saying. I've tried not to read too much of it, but I have read, and from talking to people, that there was requests for help before Halloween even started. And there was plenty of 911 calls that came in before, or not, it would be 119, I guess, in Korea. There was plenty of those calls that came in to the police and they didn't do anything about it. So yeah, whoever was getting those calls or whoever was getting the requests for help before and ignored it, they should be in prison. I think they should be, because their oversight, there's 150 young people that are dead.
Yeah, no, it's terrible, terrible, terrible situation. I just can't imagine any of my family members going that way and me being peaceful about it. I'd be pretty damn upset.
I've walked on the street 1,000 times, man. It's, you know what I mean?
Yeah, to you, it's hitting home. It's a tough spot. Like, when I talked to you about it prior, you're just like, you didn't even have much to say. You're just like, what the hell? And I'm with you. It's something. It's weird. Humans are weird. And I'm not trying to diss the people who died or how it happened, but the whole situation's weird. Like, the fact that you could, I don't know, you were saying in America, people would get socked in the face before this happened.
Probably, yeah.
And maybe the crowd would be like, hey, stop fucking shoving. There'd be a lot of yelling and stuff. Unfortunately, it's like you said, it's kind of a peaceful city. There's no need for cops, really. Like, everybody kind of keeps their cool, and it looks like this was just a terrible situation, dude. Terrible.
I mean, it's just, when you're used to bumping into people all the time, it's really not that big a deal. And then pretty soon, I assume, it's like the frog in the boiling water. By the time it's boiling, you didn't realize it was boiling and you can't get out. And again, I just don't see something like that happening in America. And now we have plenty of things that would happen here that wouldn't happen in Korea because of cultural differences. But I think it was a time bomb that the city officials and the neighborhood officials, the GU officials in Yongsan, they should have known, they should have anticipated it, and they shouldn't have let it happen. So
okay,
I hope the families just sue the shit out of them.
Okay. All right. Yeah, man. Thanks for telling me your side, because I wanted you on because you know a lot about this area. So thank you. Sorry for all the families. I doubt anybody listens, but hey, super big condolences to all of you. But yeah, dude, if you guys want to keep listening, you should, because me and Lane had a gnarly debate about if we went to the moon or not. And I won. I'm just kidding. But yeah, everybody, enjoy. Lane, thanks for telling your little take on that whole situation. Sorry for just in general, terrible situation. Hopefully they figure it out, because this is kind of a big wake up call to that culture.
Yeah, it's a cultural change. It's an event that has the potential to change a whole culture. So
yeah.
Hopefully it's for the better. Hopefully they don't make this like some reason, never hang out, no more crowds. That's not the right thing to do. Just get your
better. better engineering of how events will happen in the future.
Yeah, and hopefully the police can start doing their damn jobs.
Yep. All right. Well, everybody stick around, enjoy the debate, and enjoy it. Peace.
Later. Gosh.
Mr. Anderson. What's up, Lane?
What up, dude?
What's good, dude? You know, I on my last comment on Union of the Dads, which I haven't done a podcast in basically like a month, people are hitting me up like, what are you doing? So I'm like, let me get Lane Kendall on while I'm on vacation in Kansas. And somebody had wrote, hey, you know, great podcast or whatever. When are you going to have Lane on again? So, hey, here we are.
Here we are.
They're getting their request. What's up, dude? How's your week been going?
Good. What's your favorite kind of seltzer, man? I was just wondering about that.
I would say, I don't know. My mom gave me this zinc. Like I opened the fridge. I was like, I need to grab something for the pod because you have to have something to drink. And
Is there no alcohol allowed in the Logan residence?
You mean the Unruhs? Yeah.
Oh, sorry, my bad. It will be the Logan residence again in the future.
It will. Yeah, I got a pack of Trulies in the basement, so we're good. We're good. I'm on vacation, dude. So if you're on vacation, you got to have Trulies. You know what I'm saying?
I do, man.
Speaking of which, I showed up flew into Wichita yesterday, and I'm driving into Pratt. I'm gonna go eat at this Mexican restaurant called Cancun with my dad, and I stopped at the liquor store, and I'm like, there was like no seltzer beers. I was like, damn, I am in Kansas. It took me a hot second to find anything, and I found the very first Truly pack, which is like, I don't know, it's not their greatest one. I like the berry one. You know what I'm saying?
Do they not have the Topo Chicos? I think they have the Topo Chicos in Kansas somewhere.
They have Topo Chicos, but dude, those are only 4.5. I gotta hit that 5%. You know,
you can drink more of them if it's 4.5.
Yeah, you gotta pee more though. You know what I'm saying? I ain't about that life. I ain't trying to live that life. I'm just kidding. So, you know, I've been talking to you lately, and people have been asking me to talk. People have been asking me to talk to you about this. We're gonna just start off with a bang right away. I know people. Most people think we went to the moon. I know most people do. Everybody I talk to is just like, yeah, we went to the moon. Like, no problem, no questions asked. We went to the moon. So from your understanding, we went the very first time in 1969, and then the last time 1972, I believe, maybe 1970. Okay.
Yeah.
So
seven times.
We went 7 times. All right. I had talked to you a couple days ago, and I was like, let's do a pod right now. And you're like, no. Let me do some research on this. And
that's what conspiracy theorists always do. They're like, well, what about this? What about this? And like most normal people don't sit around thinking about those things. So that's where conspiracy theorists always win their debates, is because they've thought of like every single question about like why the earth is flat, when most people are like, oh shit, I have to pay my taxes at the end of the month. And so they're not sitting around thinking about that. Not that you aren't paying taxes, you're paying too many taxes, but you know the point I'm making.
I agree with you. I think to myself, you know, am I crazy? Am I stupid for believing that we didn't go to the moon? Like, am I just looking like an ass? And maybe I am, but I've just seen, just like you said, you do your research. Clearly, somebody who claims that we didn't go to the moon, I'm not just sitting back looking up at the moon saying, nope, no way in hell. Like, there's evidence to me that proves that we didn't go to the moon. And I should have studied up more on my A game.
Yeah, dog, you should. You should be on your A game.
But I feel like I've studied it enough to know all you have to do is look up like a couple videos and for instance, let's break down the time that we went to the moon. It was 60s through the 60 to 70.
Right.
We were in a Cold War with Russia to be the top dog in technology to go into space. For some odd reason, space travel was the biggest thing then, right? Like that was the Cold War.
it was less about space and more about what it represented. That our system was better at achievement than their system,
And
and
we
that
had
was like
operate. Sorry,
go
keep
ahead.
going.
No, that's
Well,
basically what the gist of the space race was.
well, we had Operation Paperclip going on, and Operation Paperclip is we took some of the scientists from Nazi Germany who
Right.
were supposedly 20 years ahead of our game in rockets, and then Russia took some scientists as well. So that's where the ambition to go to the stars was created, probably from where the Germans were at the time, and they were ahead of everybody. So you have this Cold War going. Russia
Mhm.
makes it. Russia makes the first man to orbit the Earth. Right, that was a
Yeah.
huge feat.
Yes.
And
They
so
also
then,
sent Sputnik into space, which was a huge feat.
okay, what was Sputnik?
The satellite, the first.
Okay,
Yeah. I mean, if you believe in it, if you believe in Sputnik.
I believe in Sputnik. I believe.
Right.
See, I'm not completely a flat earther. Like, I have friends clearly who are, and this is a big bag of worms to open up, even for me.
Okay. Let's open
But
them.
okay, so let's open these things. So the moon is 230,000 miles away, right?
Okay.
When you go outside and you look at the moon, do you ever think like, hey, we landed on that? Like, you ever look at it and like just think to yourself, you personally could go there. You ever think about it?
I've looked at the moon and thought, wow, that's pretty cool. We've been there. But I would admit, every time I look at the moon, I'm not like, oh my God, that could be me. That's not my first thought when I look at the moon.
Same here, but I have looked at it and been like, how the hell did we get all the way there?
Okay.
And so, all right, I'm going to just go ahead and say there's no fucking way we went to the moon. And
Mhm.
the reason being is there's like videos of the guy who runs NASA. He's like the Fauci of NASA.
Mhm.
He says these words verbatim. He's like, we would go back to the moon. Everybody's asking, why would we go back to the moon? We would go back to the moon, but we lost the technology or destroyed the technology to go back to the moon. But we're going to go to Mars. Why wouldn't we go back? You've seen Ad Astra, right?
Yes. But you know that we're supposed to go back to the moon in 2024, right? That's
Well,
like on the schedule.
well, every president, and you know what? I'll believe it when I see it. And I'm
Okay.
stoked that we're supposedly going back because under Obama, it was, we're going to Mars. Under Trump, we're going back to the moon. Like,
Yeah.
it like flip flops every president. Every president, it just flip flops.
No, we were
And
still going to Mars during Trump. The debate under Trump was if we should spend our resources sending astronauts to a low orbiting asteroid or to try to go back to the moon. Mars is still a thing. We have rovers on Mars now.
okay, we have rovers on Mars. How far away? Let me look. How far away is Mars? Far?
Probably in the millions, I would guess.
Says
250 million miles.
Jesus, 57. Mine says 57.119 million miles away.
At its furthest, at its closest, it's 34. So it depends on how the planets are orbiting the sun.
That's so interesting. And I have friends who think the Earth is flat, and there's no way that space is fake. So basically, we would send a rocket up there. It would hit the firmament or whatever and blow up. Like, I'm still trying to figure out what flat earthers think of space, especially if we're sending rockets. Most of them think, from my opinion of what I've studied, is that they're just bullshitting the rocket. Like, it just goes up and then it dies or something. I don't know. I would love to
And
get a three-way
it disappears
Yeah,
until
I've seen it.
until the shuttle comes back and lands. It just disappears into the ether, and then all of a sudden, poof, the shuttle's back, and nobody saw it come back.
Yeah, and I'm sure they would say it's CGI. It's all just made up videos and all that
You
stuff.
could go to Florida and watch it land. Like it's a
See,
very popular thing for grandparents to do with their grandchildren.
just like flat earthers, how they say some stuff. We're spinning at, I don't know, 415 meters per second, traveling at 60,000 miles an hour. I find that stuff crazy, just like you find it crazy. Hey, you can watch the rocket go up, you can watch it come down. Like that sounds crazy too. Yeah, we won't get into that just yet, but
So let me ask you a question. What's the
yes.
biggest reason that we could not have gone to the moon? Like,
Well, I would say that there's a radiation belt that surrounds the Earth. I'm going to look that up. What is the radiation belt
yeah,
that surrounds the Earth?
astronaut. Go ahead. Sorry.
It is called the Van Allen radiation belt.
Yes, and astronauts pass through that all the time.
Says Van Allen radiation belt shaped zones of highly energetic charged particles trapped at high altitudes in the magnetic field of Earth. The zones were named for James A. whatever. So they say stuff about how we can't travel back to the moon because of the radiation belt. Sometimes I've seen videos on it.
Sometimes when the solar flare, which is where this comes from, it's a product of solar flares. It's like a really bad weather system. It's worse, and then you probably shouldn't travel through it. But think about let me ask you a question here. And astronauts do pass through it like all the time. Now think about like Fukushima or think about Chernobyl, right? So if you go and you hang out by the old Chernobyl reactor and just sit there for a day, you're probably going to get really bad radiation sickness and probably have some really major effects that would kill you. But now imagine that you run through Chernobyl at 1,000 miles an hour and are there for about 20 seconds. You're not going to have any radiation effects. And a way to think about this in another way is if you're walking on hot coals. If you stand on hot coals, what's it going to do? It's going to burn the shit out of your feet. People walk over hot coals all the time because there's no conduction time.
I've done it. Yeah.
Yeah. It's the exact same principle. You pass through something. It's like anything. You're not going to hang out in the sunlight on a beach all day without any sunscreen on, especially me. But if I go out to the beach for 15 minutes, play catch, come back inside, there's no effects. That's what's going on with the radiation belt.
You're not going to stare at a bright welding light for 4 days and get
I mean, you might
flash burn like I did the last 4 days. I had my welding hood messed up, and basically I got really bad flash burn. And if anybody knows about flash burn from welding, it sucks. It's like somebody just grabbed sand every morning and scrubbed your eyes with it. My eyes are jacked up right now. Luckily, I'm on vacation for the next 6 days to where it can heal up, but it's not good. So you're saying we passed through the radiation belt real fast, kind of like hot coals, and that lets us get past it. Now we're on our mission. Now we're on our mission to the moon, which is 230,000 miles away. Right. That's just one. I'm just saying. Okay.
Yeah. If you accept my premise, that's where
I accept it.
Okay.
My thing is, I'm under the assumption that I don't know everything, and I'm not going to put everything that I find out in concrete.
No. And I'm not trying to maybe you'll say something like, "Oh, I never thought about that." That's possible, and I'm not trying to be condescending. That's just the answer I have to your question.
No, trust me, I'm not at all. It's saying this is a debate, but it's also a discovery on both ends. I think of different opinions, you could say. But so we go, and we land on the moon, and then we call the President Nixon in 1969. One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. And President Nixon's on the phone with him. Everybody's watching around the world on their TV. What are your thoughts of how the hell they called the president? Like, I understand radios and stuff like that. I've just never heard of a radio that can travel 230,000 miles. But you know what I mean? Just your opinion, your thoughts on it. We don't need to know. We could look up the facts.
No, I don't even. I wasn't even aware that they called.
Yeah, they called. Neil Armstrong called President Nixon from the moon.
No, I don't know. I couldn't tell you. I have no idea how. I don't know the logistics of telephone waves.
All the time, like all the time, and I get maybe I don't know. There's just some questionable things.
Well, yeah, but I don't think you spent $450 billion on your cell phone infrastructure either. Probably.
Yeah, and
I'm not.
yeah.
I don't know. I can't answer you exactly what the sound wave technology was that allowed a call to travel to Earth. I don't know. I do know now that we have satellites that can pick up signals from deep space and transmit them. So I don't think it's a stretch to say 50 years ago we could have got sound waves to travel from the however they did it, because like we can hear things like there's satellites. I know there's the biggest ones in China, and it can receive messages from deep space. Not messages. It's not like people are sending them, but signals. So I don't know. And then I couldn't tell you why. That just doesn't shock me that it was a possibility.
Does China have a NASA, kind of like we
Yeah.
do?
Yeah.
What's it? Do you know what it's called?
I don't know, the Chinese space program, but they're
Yes,
investing a lot of money in it.
Yeah, I've always wondered, Chinese or whatever, they're all about. They created these phones. Well, maybe not created the idea of it, but they built it.
The
Like, I'm
National
shocked.
Space Program of the PRC.
National Space Program. Okay. And do they have plans by chance that you know of? Like, have you looked it up of them going to the moon anytime
They
soon?
want to go to the moon. Yeah, they want to go to the moon ASAP. They want to go to Mars ASAP too, because this is sort of a repeat. We're in a Cold War Part 2. These things
Mars
outer
edition.
space. Yeah, Mars edition. Outer space is like the new domain. Outer space and Antarctica are like the new domains of geopolitics that really haven't been before outside of like the space
What
race.
about the Antarctica? Not to switch so fast, but what about the Antarctica Treaty? Like, a lot of flat earthers say, yeah, man, why do they have a treaty for the penguins? Like, we can't travel to Antarctica, like to a certain distance. It's like called the Antarctica Treaty.
You can take a cruise to Antarctica, so I don't really know what they're talking about.
Let me look it up and read it. It says the Antarctica Treaty was signed in Washington on the 1st of December 1959 by 12 countries whose scientists had been active in and around Antarctica. Let me see what the reasoning for it is. The reasoning for the Antarctic Treaty. To demilitarize Antarctica, to establish it as a zone free of nuclear test and the disposal of radioactive waste, and to ensure that it is used for peaceful purposes only, to promote international scientific cooperation with Antarctica, to set aside disputes over territorial sovereignty. So I guess we could go.
Yeah.
I've heard that we can't go. I've heard.
It was
Alex Jones said it. Alex Jones was talking to Eddie Bravo, and they were like, "Dude, we need to make a documentary about going to Antarctica." And they're like, and Alex is like, "I'll get shut down so fast."
There's scientists there now. The point was to make it for scientific expedition and not a new geopolitical battleground. But it's going to be a geopolitical battleground because no one's going to listen to that. As soon as people want something, that you don't have to listen unless somebody's going to stop you.
Look at Russia.
Yes. Treaties are fucking stupid. I mean, unless the other side has the enforcement mechanism to stop you from doing something, a treaty doesn't mean anything. The only time people ever sign treaties is when they know they can't win.
Yeah, it's it comes to the forefront, or people will get killed on mass scale unless they do something about it. Yeah, all right.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so you think we went to the moon. I was trying to debate James on this, or at least educate him a little bit. You would think, in the movie Ad Astra, you would think like everybody's like, why would we go back? Why would we waste resources on going back? I think what you would do is probably put a satellite somewhere on the moon to discover deeper stuff in outer space. And we want to colonize everything. It's in our DNA. And so wouldn't we want to colonize the moon in a sustainable way of travel back and forth to it, to then maybe create a base on the moon to project better launches to Mars? And I know that it's only 230,000 miles away in the scale of the big 57 million miles to Mars. So they're like, fuck the 230,000. We'll just do it from Earth. Maybe that's the case.
I mean, that
Maybe
seems like the case. It seems like the cost benefit to setting up a base on the moon is 0 to none when it's not that much closer to any other celestial body in the universe. Like compared to everything else, it's super close to the Earth. I mean, because Mars is our
yeah.
next closest neighbor, and it's like what 30 times far? No, 120 times farther away.
Have you seen
So
Moonfall?
I'm aware of Moonfall. I've watched some videos on it.
I have an awesome. I won't even give it away, but basically, I get all these movies, and I watched
Is
it
it a
because it was
PP
on
box?
there. I don't know what you're talking about, but
Dude, and when we were in China, when I traveled there the first time, every Airbnb we stayed at had this little black box, and it literally had every single movie on it, and it had them before they were out in the United States.
probably
Like I
every pay
remember it
per
was the year
view.
Jurassic World came out, and it was out in China on this little random box. I mean, sometimes it
Oh
would be
yeah,
in Chinese dubs, but they were there.
yeah. I have no idea what you're talking about, but but yeah, I watched Moonfall the other night. It's a pretty comical movie, but yeah, it's actually ridiculous.
I've
Basically,
heard it's
there's
kind of like so bad that you can watch it and enjoy watching it, though.
that's kind of where it was at. Yeah, because
Yeah,
I mean, my thing is if you put all the CGI into something and it's attractive to my eye, even if the storyline's absolutely stupid, I'm probably going to be entertained by it.
yeah.
Speaking of which, my wife told me to finish Barbarians. We started watching it last night. I got like 25 minutes left because it got super late.
Mm.
But the freaking dude, what a movie! Like it, like you
Oh,
want to
the
tell your
movie Barbarian.
yeah,
Yeah,
where they're in Detroit and all the
yeah,
jacked up
dude.
houses, and then you got that one Airbnb that's good. The whole movie, I guess I won't give it away to everybody, but you basically it's a horror movie, but it's also a comedy. Um,
Well,
it,
the
not,
second, like the third act is a little bit funny. The first act is fucking terrifying.
yeah,
The first
yeah,
act is the scariest movie I've seen in a long, long time. The second half of the movie is a little more campy 1980s style horror. It's almost two movies in one.
it's got a little Hills Have Eyes to it too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm not finished with it yet, so don't tell me the
No,
ending.
I'm not gonna.
But I'm basically at the point where the actor who's going through some stuff goes back
Oh,
to
Justin Long's character.
dude. He's amazing. I love that
Yeah,
guy.
he's
But
hilarious, dude.
he goes back to the house, and then he's like, "Who the hell's here?" You know? And then
Hmm.
he goes in and he starts using his tape measure. Like I was like, "This is hilarious." But then I'm at the part where he basically gets thrown.
That shit is pretty funny. I forgot about that
Yeah,
scene.
yeah.
When he's like,
And
"Oh my
then,
god," and he's like calling his real estate agent. He's like, "Hey, can I list this as 3 bedrooms or whatever?"
yeah,
It's
and
like
he's
a
like,
sex dungeon.
yeah, he's like these damn squatters, and he's like looking up how much space they can take up, and he's over there measuring in this tunnel. I'm at the place where he falls in
Yeah,
to that, and she's there, and then
yeah.
she sticks the sucker down, and she's like,
Oh, with
just
the
do
hair
it,
on shit.
yeah, and
Yeah.
then basically he doesn't do it, and she rips her out.
Yeah.
She rips him out of that thing and takes him into the room where that video is playing, and like that's where I had to end it because it was so late. But that movie's really good. My wife, she went and saw it in theaters, and so anybody watching this, watch Barbarians. Like Lane said, the very beginning scenes are ridiculously scary, but then you keep telling yourself the whole time, "What are you doing? Why are you walking in there? Leave!" Like, but
Yeah.
everybody continues to do what you don't want them to do, which makes obviously a horror film. But the reason I had to go to sleep is I went to Belvedere this morning. And anybody who doesn't know what Belvedere is, it's kind of like the plains where the cowboys used to roam around. And they had a boxcar up there. And what's interesting to me, the most interesting things is Robert Ellis was like, "All right, kids, go down to that ravine and
Oh,
get some
that's where we went
fossils."
camping, right?
Yeah, we went camping. Robert took us there a long time ago. But
Yeah, and it rained like 17 inches that night.
yes.
Yeah.
So Robert told the kids to go down there and grab some fossils. And I didn't know what he was talking about. And then all the kids run down, and then they come back up with these rocks. And these rocks have seashells in them. And I'm like, how is there seashells in Kansas? And they're explaining to me how it was all underwater at some point, that they found shark skeletons in the same area.
Yeah.
And what does that mean? Like, I didn't really get into it too much because I was having to chase my daughter around the whole time. But
Well, I mean, throughout, I mean, the world's history, if you, and again, this is really not to get into it too much, but this is like for the Christian, like, I remember being in high school, and I'm still very much Christian. I believe in the main tenets of the Bible. It makes the most sense to me. But then I feel like a lot of people don't really look at the Bible very hard because they're like, oh, yeah, the earth is like 4,000 years old. I'm like, bro, no, it's
6,000
clear, or whatever.
creationism says 6,000. Yeah.
Yeah, but I believe in creationism. I believe something created the planet. I don't think it randomly came to be. I just don't think that's possible. But to think that it's 6,000 years old is just so insane to me because like there was like basically humans before that. So but like we had Pangea, right, where it was one continent, and it's very clear
Yeah.
to see if you smashed all the continents back together, and just throughout periods of time, the different parts of the world were underwater, and then they became submerged. Like right now, if you look, that's how people got to the Americas in the first place. They walked. They walked from Asia over to Alaska through the land bridge
Yeah.
because it was land, and now it's
Yeah.
not. Now it's underwater, so it's the same thing.
I read a book a long time ago where it talked about
Dude, Havlin Christians are weird, by the way. Like I'm not saying there's bad. They're bad. They're not at all. I think I learned a ton of, and I don't want to say every Havlin Christian for sure, because I learned so much growing up in the church and the people, but I realized a lot that there was not a lot of introspection. It's like okay, the Bible says this. I agree, the Bible says this, but the Bible doesn't say everything that happened. It's a book that's like like 1,000 pages long. It couldn't, and so like it's so weird. It's like if you accept any part of evolution, that means you deny God. It's like no, it's very possible that that's how God designed us. I'm not saying I know that that's a fact.
and if you vice versa, if you accept any part of creationism, you deny evolution.
Which is wrong too, which I don't
Yeah.
believe. I believe
They're
that the thing that makes the most sense to me is that they work together somehow. I'm not smart enough to explain it, but if there's somebody or an all-knowing being like our God that can create the earth, why could he have not done other things that are beyond our ability to understand? It seems
Dude,
very
I'm under the perspective. I don't really have like like Catholics have a father that they have to confess to. Most Christians have a pastor who they go to for guidance.
right.
I've always just had my own one-on-one. What's up, big dog? Like
Yeah.
I trust
that's-
you.
Yeah.
And I have a very personal relationship with whoever God is. And so for me, I'm in the same boat as you. And shit, I'm questioning if we went to the moon. So clearly, I have questions about the Bible and about
I guess that's the thing.
creationism.
It's just we were kind of taught not to ask questions about things, and that's what bothers me a little bit because it's like no, like you should ask if something is a strong theory or it's a strong whatever, you should be able to ask questions and learn how to answer them. Like
100%.
I don't believe God created us to not ask questions. I mean, there's things we have to have faith in for sure, but you still have to. He gave us a brain and reason and the ability to think for a reason.
Well, my thing is history is also written by the victors. And so like I don't
Yeah.
trust history 100% either. And so why would I trust this one book, even though I take guidance from it, and I'm sure anybody who reads it can take guidance from it, which is what's so cool about, Christianity, because it has a set of pretty moral foundations of
For
how
sure.
humans should live. And that's why I don't knock it for people who completely walk the walk and all that. It's very tough to do that.
Right.
But I know Baptist people who are like, if you like, they're just really like, they view God as this like really mean person who wants to condemn you, vindictful and vindictive. Sorry. And
Dude, no,
very,
I said it wrong.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
But like just this person of anger and power and he will spite you. And if you sin, and I have this whole different view of him. Like he's a father figure to me. It says that he loves me more than I love my own child. So I'm like, dude, if you have that much love for me,
Right.
that's insane. because I have an immense abundance amount of love for my kid. But back to the fossils and stuff in Kansas, it's a pretty cool thing, and it kind of cracks me up that you can drive out there. Because if you ask me, it's a pretty mysterical thing to just be able to have kids run down into this ravine, pick up seashell fossils, and then take it home. Like nowadays, that's what I love about Kansas, though. Kansas is still such a young, nobody knows about it type place that if this was in California, you wouldn't even be able to walk on that land.
Isn't
you
that
would stay on
crazy?
the road. You'd have to stay on the road.
There's nothing to do in Kansas. I'm like, dude, I was never bored ever. Not one time growing up.
Same here. And
I mean,
my brother
because there's not many ladies there, but if you have a family and you have kids, man, there's not a better place to be.
Solid spot. My mom told me, because I went on the bus with a bunch of kids in her class and stuff, and she's like, yeah, they will never get to do this but once in their life. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And like, she's like, well, their parents don't really do much like this with them. And it makes me realize, coming from California, when I do move here, like all the stuff I'm going to do with my kids, like I want to take them and show them that kind of stuff. I want to go camp there. It's just a shame in society that even in Kansas, the parents can get pretty damn comfortable with just going home, turning on Netflix, and you know what I mean? Like the same thing that inner city people do. And I wish I could just shake them and be like, you don't understand the freedom you have. But, some parents also kick ass and do all sorts of stuff with their kids out here and in California. But
question real quick.
Go for it.
Could we take like a 5-minute pause so I can throw my clothes in the dryer?
Of course.
Can you just edit this out?
I think I can press pause right here.
Okay. You ready?
All right. The recording's still going. Yep. We just took a break right here. Lane wants to ask me a question.
What is that? What are you drinking?
It's called, it was the only seltzer they had in the fridge. It's called Polar Cranberry Lime.
Is it actual seltzer or is it like a...
It's just seltzer water. It says 0 calories.
That's pretty good. Okay. So the question that I have, and one that gets me a lot, from just back to the moon, is the last question I'll ask. You can ask another question if you want to. But everyone is like, well, how in the world did we go to the moon in the 1960s when people barely had TVs in their house? Right? It's like the technology argument.
Yes.
We just didn't have enough technology to do it. Okay. Do you believe that we dropped an atomic bomb on Japan?
An atom bomb?
Yeah. Do you believe that happened?
Yeah.
Okay.
I do.
So what is harder to believe? That we figured out how to travel to a rock that we can all see, or that we figured out how to split a microscopic thing that nobody could see with their blind eye, that we didn't even know existed until about 100 years before. And we figured out how to tear that into two and create the biggest explosion that has ever existed in the history of man?
That's a great question.
I'm just saying, if you can believe one.
Well, I believe I know a lot of people who are deep down the rabbit hole on a lot of things, and some people don't even believe that. Some people don't even believe nuclear bombs exist.
Well, there's a lot of people in Hiroshima that would like to, have conversations about that.
Or Chernobyl, that would say a little different. And also, I'm a firm believer in nuclear power will be what is legitimately going to save us from all this global warming, global whatever. But I also don't believe global warming is real. Well, I believe it's real. I believe it's natural.
Right. Same.
I believe we probably could speed it up with our, emissions that we send out.
Agree.
I mean, I weld, dude. People complain about a car, dude. Strike up an arc and see how much smoke freaking goes off that. Like, how is that legal in California, but lawnmowers aren't? I'm like, dude, Gavin, come on, dude. Come to my shop. Come check this flux core out.
Gavin is a moron. He's a certified idiot. He's possibly the dumbest person in the entire world.
Josh Lofgren says it best when it comes to politics. Those guys, it's a show. It's all a show. Everything that they bring up, and they're like, oh, like Earth is dying because of us. It's all a show. It's
Yes,
absolutely stupid.
it's a way for them to gain more power. That's all it is.
People are actually very dumb too, like to believe it. Like they don't question things. Dusty says it best, you know. You turn on your TV, the guy's got a suit on, he's got a tie, he's got his hair done nice, and next to a sexy girl, and then he's like, yes, you know, scientists are saying that the polar ice caps are melting, and you know what? Florida's going to be underwater in 10 years, so we got to do something about it. We got to send air conditioners to or the North Pole and fix this. Like, and people will sit there and be like, I will fund air
Yeah,
conditioners to the North Pole. Here's
yeah,
$200 a month, whatever.
yeah.
Like, and I don't know, talking heads. It's. I just want people who listen to really think about where they're taking their information from, whether it's crazy
Yeah.
or whether it's just, you know, you turn on your TV, Fox News, CNN, whatever it is. Like, are you taking all that in with 100% truth? Because I think they're both full of shit in some cases.
Well, so I agree with you, and I understand the both sides of it. I really do. Where it's like, yes, the hyper left does this, and the hyper right does this. I get it, but having been in that world for like indirectly involved in that world for over a year now, there's times where I see things on the right. I'm like, oh, we're not representing that completely truthfully, but it is far less than what the left does. It is far less, and just because I've been the one responsible for a lot of this. That's like I've been responsible for the information going to millions of people. So I don't take that lightly. And
I understand.
we don't really fuck around. Like I'm not saying that
Yeah.
so I'm not saying we know everything and that we're perfect, but I promise you that at least if you watch the things that I'm trying to put out there through the program I work for, everyone is doing the very best that they can to tell the truth. That's all it is.
I feel like they self-censor themselves. I feel like they self-censor themselves to a degree.
Yes.
They don't necessarily give out their full opinion. I think they side with more of the conspiratorial side of COVID. And but you know what? YouTube has literally striked you guys so many times.
That's not even a conspiratorial thing anymore. Like people know that. All these things are real. Like these are facts. And we still can't say them.
But they were claimed as conspiracy theorists
Right.
a year ago. So that's where you know the CIA coined the name conspiracy, and that's the issue: is people who are logically thinking and speaking are now conspiracy theorists, and so they lump conspiracy all up into everybody believes in the flat Earth, that will kill you.
Right.
Like everything is just wrapped into a ball now, so that way the left can be like, oh, that's a radical conspiracy theorist. When in actuality, he's actually a common sense person.
Dude, do you remember 2 years ago, people are like, oh, it might have come from a lab. And everyone's like, oh, no, there's no way. That's a conspiracy theory. And now, less than 2 years later, everyone's like, oh, yeah, it definitely came from a lab.
Bill Murr, I'm not a big fan of him, but at least he's on the left saying, hey, this people.
I like him. I'm
starting to.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot of left-leaning people that are like in the same boat as some people in the right-leaning who think that gas prices are crazy. They're seeing it for what it is. What's the word? They're waking up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, next
How
Tuesday,
bad?
it's gonna be
Tell me what I should expect next Tuesday.
It's going to be a fucking bloodbath. Like, it is going to be an annihilation.
So break it down. What am I going to see?
You're going to see
Wednesday morning.
You're going to see, I mean, the Republicans in control of every part of government with a huge majority outside of the president.
Okay.
It's not going to be close. And you're going to look at states that 3 years ago were kind of purple, like Florida. And now we're going to see in Texas, and now you're going to see both those governors win by millions of votes. It's because COVID really, I think COVID was a huge, huge turning point. COVID and the riots in the 2020 election, it didn't really have time to take foot. But since then, now that you've seen the economic, because usually economics follows policy. You set a policy, you do something, and it takes a while for the economics of it to catch up. Well, the economics have caught up. And now I think it's going to be one of the worst midterm elections for Democrats ever. It'll rival 2010. Yes.
Good.
And
Good. I mean,
if you
they
look
say it's
at,
a pendulum.
so in 2020, I think, and don't quote me on this, but it's something like Donald Trump lost the suburban white women vote by 20%, which is why he lost the election. Now that
Do you
is
think it was a
gone.
legit election though?
So I
Yeah.
lean more on the side of that the media and the different states changed voting. Well, first of all, the media hid information from the public, like the Hunter Biden laptop story. That's clear. We know that.
Yeah, FBI went to Mark Zuckerberg and said, "Hey, shut that down."
Yes. They went to Jack Dorsey, said the same thing. And so I think that is one of the bigger reasons. And then different states changed their election laws at the last minute to encourage certain
mail-in
people.
ballots, drop
Yes.
boxes.
Yes, exactly. And do I think that if you count up all the votes, do I think that Trump got more than Biden? No, I think Biden got more, but I think the rules of the election, that COVID election, were all skewed to get more people to vote for Biden. So do
Yeah,
I
it was
believe
hard.
it was stolen in the sense that
Okay.
actually Trump got more votes? No, I think Biden got more votes, but I think the only reason he got more votes is because it was manipulated by a lot of different levers of power. That's where I stand.
That's a great way to drop it because I'm under that assumption too, and I'm hoping that's the case. Because if all of a sudden Tuesday comes around, Wednesday comes around, and everybody in the House is still Democratic, and everybody in the Senate is still Democratic,
Nah, bro.
then we will know.
Then. And
Hey.
the reason I can tell you why is because generally who votes early? Which party votes early?
Republicans.
No.
Democrats. They send in their ballots.
They always vote early. And who usually wins the cities?
Democrats.
Okay, if you look at Miami-Dade County, which is one of the biggest counties in the country, early voting is turning out huge numbers, and Republicans have voted more in that. That's not good for Democrats. Yeah. So we're winning the biggest city in Florida in early voting. Dude.
Well, they
Same
didn't
in
help
Georgia.
Florida out at all. This administration didn't help them out at all. You
No,
got them
and
sending
the governor of
$85
Florida is the
billion.
best politician in the country.
You got the government sending $85 billion to Ukraine for a proxy war, and then you got a disaster that happens in Florida. And what's her name? Not Nancy Pelosi, but the Kamala Harris.
Kamala Harris. Yeah.
You got her.
Yeah.
Not sending aid to Florida, and basically they bring up race again. They're like the black people are being discriminated in the towns hit by the hurricane. It's like if you went down there, I'm sure it's a lot like Greensburg when the tornado hit. Everybody's helping everybody. You need food, come over here. You need shelter, come over here. It's just But once again, I revert back to the media is full, especially the left, is full of crap.
No, I mean, and I guess this is where I want to make sure I distance myself from that kind of.
Okay.
No. I just mean that like kind of right wing talking.
Well, I know your career is based in journalism and stuff, so I don't want to ever.
No, everything you said is. I agree with everything you said, and so I agree. If we can send that money to Ukraine, we should be able to send it to Florida or the border or wherever. But I also don't think giving that money to Ukraine is bad. I think it's actually very intelligent, and I think it's going to pay off because we're sending money to remove one of our biggest geopolitical enemies from the global impact center.
Stage.
And we're not doing anything. We're giving money that's all going to get paid back in weapons contracts and lend-lease. We're going to get all that money back. And Europe's going to have to rebuild the Ukraine, and we're not going to have to worry about Russia, and we can focus on China. I honestly don't think we've handled Ukraine poorly outside of like how Biden talks about the nuclear aspect. I think the funding has been smart, to be honest with you.
Are you no longer considering? I always in the back of my head consider if we poke this bear too much, he might do something crazy.
Yeah, but that's the thing. We're not poking him. Yes, there was kind of a realist perspective at the beginning of the war where it's like, okay, we're trying to add these countries to NATO and Russia had to take in their security concerns. I get it because that's kind of how, under a realist international relations perspective, you would expect them to act. But it's become clear over the course of Russia's war that they have much bigger ambitions than their territorial security. They want to recreate the Soviet or the Russian Empire, not the Soviet Empire, the Russian Empire. And they're very, very bad at it. So if they're going to continue to invade into Western Ukraine and potentially Western Europe or the Balkan nations, yeah, we can't let them do that, because that means anybody with a nuclear weapon can do whatever they want whenever they want.
Well, not to throw James under the bus, but when I was talking to James on Union of the Dads, you got a little upset at him when he's like, if I'm Ukraine, I'm suing for peace. Right. And I'm no longer Ukraine. And you called me and you're like, not to diss on James at all, but you were like,
no, because James is a libertarian. About? They have a very different perspective on the world that I disagree with. But
you made a good point. You're like, Andrew, just because you have a nuke doesn't mean you can go take Mexico, or whatever. Like, just because I'm going to threaten Canada with a nuke doesn't mean Canada is going to be part of the United States.
Well, just play this out, because eventually you start the nuclear nations start taking things they want, and pretty soon you have two nuclear nations that are bordering with each other, and then you're in a nuclear war anyway. So, like, the end game is always nuclear annihilation, and as long as you have I can't even think of it, the MAD, mutually assured destruction. That's what you need. You know what the MAD theory is?
Yeah, basically it's like, hey, we're about to kill both countries and basically take out the world, so let's come to an agreement.
Yeah. So in my opinion, the only answer here from Biden, because I don't want to, there's like 7 official nuclear states and a couple de facto ones like Israel and North Korea. I think it's like France, UK, India, China, Pakistan. I don't know if I've listed them all. Us, Russia, obviously. But most of those countries are in like the Western coalition, right? Except Pakistan, Russia, and China. So the rest of them are Western democratic countries. India is the biggest democracy in the world, right? As long as those countries say to Russia, yo, you drop a nuke, we're going to fuck you up. Russia's not going to drop a nuke. And that's the only play left. We all have nukes. That's the only play left. Now, nuclear weapons are still very dangerous, but in my opinion, they're only dangerous. I feel like the most dangerous nuclear countries are Pakistan and North Korea, because they'll sell them to terrorists. Potentially Russia, but I don't think they would do that.
What is the NATO of China? I know there's a NATO of the... Yeah, they do. They have Russia, Brazil, Asia, or China.
That's BRICS. That's it.
Yes.
BRICS
what is
Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa. But that is
Isn't it kind of a NATO?
Okay. No, that's an economic alliance. It's kind of like a developing countries. Because if you go to the IC, India, China, those countries hate each other worse than any two countries in the world might hate each other. In 2020, China killed 20 Indian troops at their border with rocks and sticks 2 years ago. So they hate each other.
Wow.
There's no military alliance there. It's an economic trade bloc, essentially.
Okay. I was under the assumption it was kind of like NATO, just with Russia, China. No. Okay. Well, thanks for clearing that up.
There's no answer to NATO currently. During the Cold War, it was called the Warsaw Pact, and that was the Soviet Union and their Eastern European allies. But that doesn't really exist anymore.
So you have a lot of faith though in this upcoming months of
I think things are getting better.
And you think
economically it's going to be tough for a few years, but I think socially, I think the way we govern, I think things are getting better, to be honest with you.
Okay. I think my little girl's back here.
Bring her on the pod.
Hey, is Luna in there? Luna. Yeah, it's Daddy. Anyways. All right, they're out back. I'm in Kansas right now for anybody listening. I'm just up in my old room. It's way different than what it was 15 years ago, but a lot of good memories here. Kansas has been fun, man, and I just got here. Other than having flash burn in my eyes, it's been a good time. I'm trying to think, dude. I have so many questions that pop into my head because I have, a lot of opinions thrown at me. And then I have the opinion of you, which is a very um, kind of just, I don't know, just you're very well researched in the world of things. But
No, and not like obviously when
what,
you talk to James or Dusty, I love listening to them because they have
yeah, of
perspectives that
course.
I don't have. And it makes me reconsider my position. And at the end of the day, James and I are probably going to agree on a lot more than we disagree on.
Yeah.
But we can have major disagreements and argue and still be cordial because we're not insane people. So that's why I respect it. I really like people like James
Yeah.
a lot
Yeah.
because that dude's a smart cat and
He
he
is.
reads a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, he does. He's always telling me what book to read next. I really did enjoy 1984, that book.
Mm.
My brother made fun of me for not reading, so I read it. And it's really good. Like it was slow. It was hard at first because it just talks about, it just puts into detail what the world looks like through the eyes and the lens of this person. And so there's a lot of like the wind was swirling in the side of the corner of the alley as dust kicked up the last leaf of the night. And I'm
It
like,
sounds like
okay,
Liz Ballard wrote that.
yeah, no, and I've been taught, writing, when you write, you're supposed to describe the area or the situation with detail. So that this guy had insanely good writing. It's just funny. Like at the end of the book, you think he's going to come away, fighting the party and becoming part of a rebellion. And sure enough, he gets caught, tortured, and shot in the back of the head. And that's what communists would be. And a lot of what the left wants, and I don't even know if they want it. I just think that that's where they're going if they continue to be this asinine with everything. But from what you're telling me, we're actually not going to have to deal with most of that come Tuesday of next
I
week
mean,
and Wednesday. I know it gets implemented the 1st of January or something like that. But
yeah, Tuesday is going to be a good start, I think. I mean, that would be my prediction, but I don't know. And I
there's
guess
a
I
lot
just
to
have
clean
to.
up.
There's a ton to clean up, and you can see people starting to clean it up in places like Italy and places like Poland. It's happening. I mean, South America is going the opposite direction. South America is
Twitter.
fucked. Yeah, Twitter. Oh, dude, awesome. But
Yeah, dude. Yeah.
yeah, dude, he's a mad lad. I love that guy.
Let that
I mean,
sink in.
he sims for. He's got problems too, for his bottom line.
China.
Yeah, he has a big China problem, a huge China problem. But I also think he is inherently American in his beliefs. So hopefully he'll come around. I hope.
In the conspiracy world that I'm in, I'm going to have this guy on called the New York Patriot, and he's all about like diving deep into the history of like kind of cults, I guess, not cults, but like
Yeah.
historical. He's talked to me a lot about the Illuminati and like how things are working, and he thinks Trump, Kanye West, and Elon Musk right now are a big, like, the group of Illuminati is throwing them out there as the savior for the people. God, I forget the name of it, but I'm gonna have him on. I'm gonna have him on soon to break it down because I'm like, dude, break this down for me. Just because like you said, I'll hear out anybody.
Wait, the Illuminati is throwing Kanye on as a savior for the people,
well,
but it's a fake. I'm guessing he thinks that's a fake, guys.
let me look this up. Exactly the picture that he posted, and I was like, that's really interesting. I want to have you on to break that down. There he is. God damn it. Dude, sometimes I want to throw my phone across the screen. I'm typing in his handle, and then, anyways. Yeah. Look at this. Look at this, Lane. I don't know if you can see it. I doubt you can see it. It's probably blurry, huh?
Is that Elon and an Iron Man out? Or yeah.
Yeah, the sheep can't wait to pay me for their info, is what it put on there. Freemasons of society. He's saying the Freemasons did it again, and it says, and the sheeps are happy again, and basically
Dude, there's a
it shows Donald
Freemason
Trump.
temple in every, like, probably both of our grandpas were in the Freemasons at some point. It's not like a huge thing.
Well, don't worry, I'm just putting that up there because later you'll be able to see it. But I have a friend from Sweden. Hold on, real quick. I have a friend
Okay,
from Sweden.
wait.
Just to back you.
Okay, go ahead. No, go ahead.
I have a friend from Sweden, and his dad
Yeah.
is a Freemason, and he goes to meetings and all that stuff. And
Yes,
like his dad,
a lot of our
his dad is
grandpas did that.
yeah. Basically, it's like a hangout for old men, right?
That's what it is, like 99% of the time. But the Kanye one is so weird to me because if Kanye's part of that, but Kanye hates the Jews, but the Jews are in control of the world. Like, huh? Like what?
I get what you're saying.
Also, I want
It's
to
like a sacrificial
I
lamb.
hate that.
Okay.
Like Kanye has said some very smart things, and I'm like, yes, I agree with that. Black people need to be able to speak freely without worry of persecution of their ideas based on their race, just like any race should be able to do that. But when he starts going after like the Jews, that's not great, man.
I haven't looked too far into it, but didn't he kind of go after like the Rockefellers and like the people who run the world, like you said, and like people who run Hollywood, who run the record labels, and like
Sure. And if you want,
was he going after the people or the rich hierarchy?
It was pretty anti-Semitic what he was saying.
Okay, I didn't look.
It's very Hitlerian in his big lie thing, like that the root cause. Now, are there Jews that have done stupid shit? Sure. Are there Jews that have made the world a worse place? Yes. Are there Jews that have made the world a better place? Yes. Just like any group of people.
Yeah.
So,
it's humans, human nature.
Yes, it's humans.
What's the nature of that person?
Literally, Hitler. Like, I'm not comparing Hitler to Kanye at all, but that was kind of the basis of the Holocaust. Was all our problems are because of the Jewish people. So why don't we just kill them all? That wasn't really great. So maybe we shouldn't. Like, if you want to criticize like a group of people for their specific behaviors, you can name those people. Sure, do it. But it's like me saying all black people or all Asian people. No. The Japanese Empire was very bad. Does that mean I think Asian people are bad? No. You just need to be more specific with your language. You can't speak so broadly.
Yeah. Well, maybe it was coming from a place of like a couple individuals, but he definitely lumped it up from what you're saying into a whole race.
That's a good point because I know this kid, really good guy, that has problems with Jewish people because the Jewish people he's known in his life have been part of like the entertainment industry and have really ruined a lot of people's lives. In reality, that happened, but that's because they happen to be Jewish. They didn't do it because they were Jewish. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like if a black person shoots somebody or a white person says something racist. Okay.
Christians are terrible.
Sure, it's the same thing. Christians have done a lot of shitty things too, but it's not because they were Christians.
Well, exactly. I'm basically saying if I did something stupid, which I won't, just saying hypothetically, for them to just look at me and be like, white man, Christian, and then just lump it all into that instead of, hey, what about the greed because I wanted an oceanfront house? What about the reasons behind my personal ambitions?
Yes.
Yeah. It's all that stuff is funny money to me, like, or whatever. Like, it's just, I feel like those are distractions too from something. I think they don't want you to pay attention to what the Democrats are doing or see how bad they're doing. So they throw in these big stories, or they, they want the Second Amendment taken away. So they throw in these, I don't know what you think about those, but like gun violence and stuff like that. Like, I feel like that's just, maybe it's a legitimate person doing something, but then they amplify it.
Sure. I believe 99% of the time it's some crazy ass individual that has no business interacting with normal society, and then he goes crazy. But do I think that the media and the left amplifies that to take advantage of their agenda? Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Well, to go full circle, I am going to say we didn't go to the moon. I want to get into this. I want to have an argument. I want you to tell me how stupid I am. Because I just don't think we did. I've seen videos of people hanging from strings that say that they were in the space station or whatever. And I've
Space
seen,
station wasn't a thing until 2000.
well, I've seen videos of people acting like they're in space and they got a green screen behind them. And why would they do that? Why do you think they would do it? Just for more funding and like like just think in my mind like they're faking it all. Why would they do that? They would do it for money, right? That's it. Like that's the
What,
main reason because
but
they
the
get
thing
like
is,
21 billion a year.
well, yeah, but like now, like that. Thank you for bringing that up. And during the Cold War, during the space race, you know how much money NASA was getting? Like 4% of our budget. 4%. That's a lot. Now they get nothing, way less than 1%. So they're not doing. What's the reason to perpetuate the lie? They're not getting any money.
They're
Everybody that's
getting
going to
tons of
space now
money.
is a private company. They're all private companies. NASA's
Well,
not going back.
the private
SpaceX is
company
going
that
back.
SpaceX, yeah, we fund SpaceX. We fund
Sure,
a lot of them. So there's that. Your rebuttal is out the window on that because there's
it's
the money
out the
that you're
window.
talking about.
It's still a private company because they're getting it from shareholders, and I guess there's subsidies, sure. But I guess the thing that makes me so sure that it happened is the number one and the only reason we wanted to get to the moon was so that we could prove, because we really thought we were in a battle for the planet, for like the survival of the planet under a communist or under a capitalist system. And our whole goal was, okay, we found this one goal. If we can
Right,
do
we
it
all came
first,
together for it.
yes, and that means that the capitalist system is better. That means that we can expand our influence across the globe and better the world, better the United States economy, everything
What we've been
ABC.
trying to do for the last 60 years.
Sure, but during the Cold War, like we haven't had something like this since the 1990s. We're starting, or since 1990. We're starting to re-enter this a little bit with China. But there was a real question of if the United States would exist because the Soviet Union was so powerful. That was our thinking. So we had to show other people that our system was the best, that you should adopt our system, that you should come with us. The space race was the kind of visualization of that because we weren't in
The
a real war.
trophy.
It was the trophy, right? So we get to the moon. If we get to the moon, why is the first thing that the Russians say not, no, they faked it? Why did the Russians acknowledge that we got there? Why would they have ever done that?
Maybe because they were close with that technology and they realized, dang, we were close, but they got there first.
But you
Like
don't. They
that's a
had.
great no, that's a great that's a
There
great
was
question you brought up.
there were so many Russian spies in the United States you couldn't count them. So why would not one of those? You don't think they had a spy in NASA? There's no way they didn't have a spy in NASA. There's zero chance. They.
Yeah,
So in my thinking, why as soon as they faked it, that would have been reported back to Moscow like that. It wouldn't have been able to get to the New York Times for the morning edition before the Kremlin was releasing a statement that said, actually, Stanley Kubrick filmed this at Disney Studios in Orlando. But they've never
all
done
right,
that.
touche.
They were like,
Yep.
fuck.
But we've done plenty of stuff like when Donald Trump got elected by the Russian whatever it was. You know what I'm saying? Like we say stupid shit all the time. I don't know. The moon's just a hard one for me to just like be convinced that we went. And
Bro.
if we do go back, I will be
Yeah.
like, all right, Lane, you'll be the first one to call, and I'm like, you're right, we went back. And then I'll call my buddy who thinks they were at this flat, and I'll be like, the firmament, we blew past that bad boy. No water popped out of that. You know what I mean? So like, there's a lot of things that I take into consideration from every perspective, and I try to put my head in their head and try to come
I
up
agree.
with
That's a good.
I try to come up with their rationalities on things. You are very historic and kind of understand it, kind of like how you were breaking down the reason why we went and the reason why it was such a prize to get there was because of this, and that's why Russia actually accepted it. And like I like being in that mindset too. Yeah, you
Now,
just
I think people should ask questions. Conspiracy theories are good because if you can't defend against a conspiracy theory, then that's not a conspiracy theory. Like,
yeah.
I don't know. I think there's there is dialogue that's a little too crazy to talk about. Like, I don't think you should be allowed to say, let's go kill all the white people or let's go
No.
kill all the Asian people. You should not be able to do
Hell
that.
no. That's condoning insane violence.
Sure. But I think
But to say that the Earth is flat is nothing that should be censored.
no, it's not. To say that COVID was made in the lab should not be censored. To say that the vaccine is bullshit should not be censored because it's bullshit, and we all know that now.
Oh, this is gonna get taken off YouTube.
Bro, the CEO of fucking Pfizer came out and was like, "Oh yeah, no, we never tested it for
Yeah, we didn't
stopping
test
the
it.
transmission."
Yeah.
Dude, it's like,
What do you
now,
think
I have
that
a-
is?
you know,
What do
I
you think
have-
that is?
I have a conspiracy theory. You want to hear my conspiracy theory?
Yes.
That I think there was a very effective, and this could be personal bias, but I think there was a very effective vaccine against COVID.
Called Johnson & Johnson?
Yes, I very much believe that. And
You do?
can I tell you why?
Because it has
This
no
is anecdotal.
mRNA?
It's not mRNA. It's a regular ass vaccine. There's no new technology. The government didn't own a patent on it. The government stood to make no money off of it. I think. Don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure they didn't. Don't cancel me, YouTube.
Got a lot of crap talked on it real quick, too.
It got a lot of crap talked on it real quick. They're like, oh, this is causing blood clots. Sure. Yeah, like 5 out of some 2 million people that took it. Okay, that's like every vaccine ever. That's not.
Well, since we're going to get into this, the whole idea of safe and effective, not everybody in the world can eat a peanut. So how in the world is it safe and effective for everybody? That's my only argument with it. It's like, hey, you can't say that.
But think about it. With Johnson & Johnson vaccine, it's one shot. You're done. Easy to transport, regular vaccine. We've had this technology for hundreds of years. Cool. Or 100 years. And the government owns no patent on it. Okay, so then it comes out and 5 people out of a couple million get a blood clot. And they're like, oh, we got to take it off the market. Huh? What?
I'm with you on that. I actually like.
You know what? Everybody in my family, the vaccine that they got, I got one. I wasn't an anti-vaxxer. I got the Johnson & Johnson. My aunt got one. My uncle got one. You know how many people in my family got COVID that got it?
How many?
0.
None?
None.
Yeah, a lot of people are under the assumption that it's the whole Georgia Guidestones, depopulate the planet. This is their mission, all this stuff. I'm not under that assumption because I'm like, how would society work?
Yeah.
If you take all the plumbers and they take them off the planet and all you have is elite, you think they're just going to go dump in a bucket and then pour it back in the street like they did in
That's
London?
a really good point. It's a very good point.
I tell that to people all the time who are like, they're trying to kill us all. I'm like, I don't think that's the case because society will not run the way a comfortable society, it won't sustain. But then I got some people who are like, no, they have a group of everybody and they got a welder and I'm like, okay, how do I sign up for that gig? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, right.
Like what are we talking about? What are we talking about? And then a couple buddies are like, yeah, man, like this nuclear war stuff that every Marine base, every military base has an underground bunker that connects to each one. And I'm like, dang, that's a lot of digging,
Yeah.
And
so
somehow
nobody noticed it ever.
Yeah. And so like, there's a lot of things out there where I'm like, a lot of people are just in this disaster mode in their head. And I guess it's nature.
To believe all this, though, you have to assume that the elites that they say are also dumb are also the smartest people to ever exist. Because to pull that kind of stuff off, you know how smart and how close-lipped you'd have to be?
Very. Very. And you can't slip. And
I mean, that's another, and not to get back to the moon landing, but just as an example, like the COVID thing, it was a conspiracy 2 years ago, and now it's disproven within 2 years because people spoke out. Like there were scientists right at the beginning that were like, nah, fam, that's not true. Okay. You know how many people would have had to have lied about the moon landing over time to keep this?
Well, okay, since you're going to bring this up.
I am bringing it up.
Who's the last guy that went to the moon? The last mission? there's a video out there, and maybe it's because he's old, just as old as Biden. But a little girl asks him, you know, why haven't we been back to the moon? She asked the same question I have, and this guy says to her, he breaks down. He's like, well, to go to the moon, it's a very hard task. It's a very complicated mission, and we didn't do it. We can't go to the moon. And he says it just like that.
Send me
And
that
so
video. I'm very curious. about it.
I really need to. I want to find it. I'm actually
Somebody
gonna
told
pause.
Buzz Aldrin he didn't go to the moon, and Buzz Aldrin punched him right in the fucking face.
Okay, I'm gonna pause this because I want to find this video and I want to play it.
Just pull it up. You don't have to pause.
Oh, I'm gonna pause because
But it's like James.
it's gonna take
we'll pull this up.
it's gonna take me a while. I'm not
All right,
jamming.
pull it up.
Give me 1 second. Okay, we just pulled up the video. I'm not going to play it right now. I'll put it at the end of the podcast so people can hear it clearly and also watch it. But Lane, what are your thoughts? Buzz Aldrin saying to a little girl, I can tell you why we didn't go to the moon because we didn't. We didn't
No,
go.
no. If you
How
can
did
play
he
the
say it?
video,
All right,
she
let's
says
play the video.
her question. What's her
Okay.
question?
Okay.
Why has nobody been to the moon in such a long time?
That's not an 8-year-old's question. That's my question. I want to know, but I think I know. Because we didn't go there, and that's the way it happened. And if it didn't happen, it's nice to know why it didn't happen. So in the future, if we want to keep doing something, we need to know why something stopped in the past that we wanted to keep it going. Money.
Okay. So what do you think he's saying?
Her question is, why haven't we been in such a long time?
Okay.
So that's the question.
Okay.
And then he's answering that question. And first of all, he's like in his 80s, and he's a grandpa answering that.
So is our president. But keep going.
Yes, and we've seen how that goes.
No shit.
But he's saying if we want to know why something stopped, but we can keep doing it, then we have to know the reason why. It seems to me that he was clearly saying the reason we didn't go back is because of money, which I think that's true. And the only reason I don't like, even if you believe in the moon landing being faked, Buzz Aldrin would never say that, because literally somebody asked Buzz Aldrin, hey, why did you not go? You faked the moon landing, and he punched that person in the face. So I don't like, maybe someone has the answer, but Buzz Aldrin's not going to be the one to admit to not going to the moon. I think that's just an old dude, not like forming his sentences extremely coherently. But the rest of his sentence wouldn't even make any sense if he says to keep doing something. Keep doing what? Going nowhere?
Yeah. I'm under the assumption of gathering all the information that I know of going or of not going, and I'm going to bunch it all together and really try to make my stance.
That's just
Even
my
though-
answer. That's just my answer. I'm
No,
not
no,
saying
no,
you're an
I
idiot
get
or
it.
anything like that.
I get it. No, I would say I'm very open-minded to it, and I'll take your information and apply that to my knowledge as well. You know what I mean? Like, I'm trying to be rational as well. I'm not trying to just be like, hey,
Yeah, but when you put this, your audience is going to look at me and be like, that guy is an insane person. He thinks we went to the moon.
only some, and then my dad will sit there and be like, of course we did. Because, and people, and like maybe Jim Scott will be like, of course we went. Like, I got some people who are, it's definitely half and half. I'm not under this conspiracy blanket, dude. That's not where I'm trying to go with this. I'm going to interview Ralph Corbett and all sorts of random people. You know what I mean? But with you, I like to question these things with my young friends because people who are old are stuck in their ways, man. They're stuck in the mud on everything. They ain't gonna budge. But with us, I like to banter and try to figure out information on both sides and come to my conclusion at some point. It's kind of hard to do because you can pull it. Yeah, there's a lot of information out there, dude. A lot. And I don't know. I don't know where I land on it, but I'm definitely questioning it. That's where
I
I'm
mean,
at.
you should question things. That's not a bad thing.
I'm kind of bad at arguing on the side of not going to the moon, because when I hear a person who says no, we did, and this is why, it's hard for me to take that information and not be like, that's pretty logical. I kind of understand that. You know what I mean? But a person who is very dedicated to that we didn't is probably listening to this like, Andrew, you're a freaking terrible representation. You should, you know what I mean? And so I should have you and somebody else on at some point to where we could bring this up, get you in a 3-way podcast with like 4 of us all at once, and then have you spit your knowledge as well as theirs. But I got to cut this podcast short just because I got to put my daughter to bed. But yeah, you have a lot of hope for the future, and I do too. I'm really excited for next Wednesday to wake up and see what's happening.
Yeah, me too. I mean,
Yeah.
you can tune in and find out live.
Oh, on a louder.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, you've done an awesome job of researching there. Like I have a couple of Crowder fans that like always hop on to listen to you because they know that you're the main researcher at that podcast platform. And yeah, I'm proud of you, man. Keep that up. You're crushing it. But yeah.
Show.
Anyways, everybody, I won't even leave the Buzz Aldrin video. Yeah, maybe. You want me to leave that one up? You want me to record that clip and leave it at the end?
No, we're good. They can go look it. They can search it.
I'll leave it at the end, and we'll see.
Right.
We'll see let people see what they think.
Yeah.
But anyways, Lane, thanks for coming on, and everybody listening, thanks for listening. Like, subscribe, do all that fun stuff, and peace out.
Why has nobody been to the moon in such a long time?
That's not an 8-year-old's question. That's my question. I want to know, but I think I know. Because we didn't go there, and that's the way it happened. And if it didn't happen, it's nice to know why it didn't happen, so in the future, if we want to keep doing something, we need to know why something stopped in the past that we wanted to keep it going. Money.